Thank you so much for showing up on this foggy morning. It's an honor to be here and present in front of all of you. I started a small company called DesiCrew. And when I started it, I didn't know there were words like social entrepreneurship or social entrepreneur. The idea was just to do something that one was really passionate about. And I'm just going to share my experience in the last 6 years of building this organization. I'm not talking about the organization, but building the organization and the challenges that we face as a sector, both as a social enterprise as well as a rural BPO. Typical images: farmer, poverty, infrastructure, lack of infrastructure, lack of education. Now, what image comes to your mind when I ask you of outsourcing or a BPO? Technology. Anyone else? Infrastructure. Lovely. Technology, swanky buildings, English-speaking people, young kids working and talking to people across the globe. But what do you think? Can we even make a rural BPO? And what would that look like? That's what a rural BPO looks like. Not very different from a regular BPO, only that when you step out of the office, it's actually just a village with the scenario that you saw before, the farmer, the sugarcane fields, the paddy fields, and the tractors and the goats. But why do we even need a rural BPO? People are happy in rural areas doing whatever they're doing. People are happy and efficient in their BPOs in the cities. And why do we even need to merge these two? The reason is that NASSCOM's data, and NASSCOM is the industry association for all BPOs, NASSCOM's data shows that in the last year, in 1 quarter, in 3 months alone, there were 8.5 lakh jobs created in the BPO sector. Out of these, if you break it down, the data shows that 60% of the people came from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. They came from the rural areas in search of jobs to a Bombay, a Delhi, a Bangalore, a Calcutta. And out of that, almost 50% were women. The problem with women coming from small towns to the city is that often when they get married, they have to move back. Out of the 50% who are coming, there are 50% more who are not allowed to come because of their social pressures. So imagine the workforce that is available in these places that we're not able to tap into today. And what we saw was that there was almost 60% attrition rate on an average in this industry, which basically means that 60% of an organization leaves within 1 year, and you have new people coming in. Now imagine what kind of stress and pressure that creates both on the person who is sitting and working in this job and the company that is recruiting them. For people who are coming from small towns and rural areas in search of these jobs, what often happens is that they get salaries of 4,000 to 8,000 rupees. Now, we started asking potential clients, large BPO companies, people who extend their work to BPOs. We asked them, what is the biggest challenge that you see in sending this work out to a rural area? And one thing that they said, many reasons, but I think to put it in one word that we saw was perception. We all have a perception of a rural area. We started the presentation by asking you, what do you think of a rural area? Everybody said farmer, lack of infrastructure, and etc. We have a perception that rural areas are of a certain kind. However, as we have progressed in the cities and we have changed the way we look at things here, things in the rural areas have also changed. Now, if you dwell deeper into perception, we asked them further, what are the main things that you see? And the first thing that people came up with was availability of talent. Now, that kind of sounds odd to me because you're already employing 60% of the people who are coming from these areas. But the biggest challenge that you see is availability of talent. And when we asked them further and went deep in the subject, we understood that they mean 3 kinds of people that they look for in a working environment. There's a production staff, which is your shop floor people who sit and actually do the work. There is a middle management, the people who manage these people, and in corporates, managers are extremely important. And the third kind of people are support staff. And I'll share with you 3 stories of one from each category that shows how these people are available and in what kind of, why they're coming back. So the first story is of a girl called Sarita. She's a team leader in one of the rural BPOs. She works with us. She worked in Chutney in a large BPO. She decided that she's not earning enough because she would make 4,000. She said, okay, I want to go back. So she went back to a tier 2 city closer to her village. This was about 60-65 kilometers. But she decided that, she found that she can't travel every day back to work and come back home. So she took a room closer to the place. Within a few months, she realized that that's not possible either. And that's when she saw our board. She came, started working with us. Now, she left because the distance was too much. She was not earning enough. And she came back and started working here. The second case study is of a lady called Veena. Very smart girl, born and brought up in a small place in Udupi, tier 2 town. She decided that she has ambition, she wants to go to a city. She went, she worked in the best organizations, Accenture, Cisco, you name it. She got experience over there on the shop floor. However, within 8-9 years, her parents decided that she should get married. She got married and she had to move back to Udupi. What are her options? She's worked in the best places. She can't come and work in a place and find a job of sales or of anything else in the local area. Today, she manages a team of 100 people out of a center which is close to Udupi. The third, Sarat, who manages the entire IT infrastructure of 250 people from a small village. Sarat is, he didn't have the pressures of having a low-paying job. He didn't have the pressures of getting married and therefore moving back to a small town. He moved back because he wanted to take care of his parents and his ancestral land. He decided that city life is too much of an effort, the quality of life is not good, and he'd like to move back. Now, these three stories tell you that there's a shop floor person, there's a middle management, and there's a support staff. But what they also show is people are moving back out of choice. People are moving back because they're forced to move back, and people are moving back to improve their quality of life. And these are just three stories, but we hear these more and more every day in our work. And the breed is just growing, people who want to go back and do something in their own local places. The second point that clients often came up with was that, where is the infrastructure? We're sitting here in Delhi, we're in Gurgaon, we don't have power. We don't have power for 8 hours, and you're telling me that I can't even pronounce the name of the place. What is it called? Appakudal? You're saying Appakudal has more power than I have? Like, I don't think government of India does that kind of thing. Delhi is the capital. And it's rather surprising, but in the south and across actually the country now, the length and breadth of the country is connected by fiber optic cable. All the railway routes, all the highways, state and national, are connected by fiber optic today. And incidentally, an IMRB study which was conducted a few months back in 2010 also demonstrated that rural India for the first time has surpassed the usage of internet than urban India. Kids in rural India are using it far more. Why are they using it? 1, because it's available. 2, because it's affordable. And 3, because literacy rates are higher and they can now go on the internet and use it. So infrastructure is there. Whatever little infrastructure is not there is something that money can easily buy, is what we believe, and that is what we've demonstrated. We've created infrastructure for the rural BPOs, and I'm saying it for me and my colleagues who run other BPOs, rural BPOs as well. We've created infrastructure which is at par with any large BPO company in the city. If we move to the next point, the third point they would always come up with is, they're not workable models. BPOs always think of scale. It is about a factory, a large factory. They hire in thousands by the dozen. They hire in thousands. They set up infrastructure for 5,000, 10,000 people in one location. Now, the question is, how can I go to a panchayat village and set up an office of 1,000 or 5,000 people? And that's the perspective change that we need to bring in their minds. So we started saying that, there are various models. It could be a 50-seat, it could be a 100-seat, but we have to aggregate across many villages to bring it up as a large 5,000-seat office. And therefore, what happens is that you use the best talent of each location. You don't go scraping the bottom of the barrel. You hire the best people available in that area. They walk to work, they cycle to work, they take one bus away. The salary suddenly becomes so much more meaningful for them. The model could be for-profit and not-for-profit. Both are available today. It could be a franchise or a company-owned, and there are various things which are going around. However, what one needs to remember is that in any way that you organize, doesn't mean that you're always a social enterprise if you do this kind of work. There are models which are exploitative as well in this space, and there are models which truly think that they're creating wealth for the people in the communities. So, we answered the 3 big questions for them. And when we started showing them success stories and case studies and taking them to our village and showing them, what exactly is there and even after seeing that, their first responses would often be that, this is all very good, but, rural BPOs can only do low-end data entry work. We're absolutely wrong. In fact, I'd like to share with you that amongst the many things, skills that, we've been working on, we're working on a project for a UK client where we're creating screencasts, which is basically audio-visual e-learning content. We're sitting and transcribing lectures of engineering from professors at IIT so that they can be subtitled and passed on as e-learning content. We've done a lot of work in plotting maps. We've plotted 88 different countries. We've plotted 88 different countries on maps that can be then used in a digital format by people like us. I need it back in 3 hours. And you'd be surprised, we ran a service for 2 years. It was for a startup company, a very interesting service. We all came here early today, and the session was supposed to start, so someone wants to go grab a coffee outside. Unfortunately, there's nothing in this area right now, but supposing it was a slightly more, you were in CP or somewhere else. So you could just SMS, closest coffee shop near college. If you were back in Kashmiri Gate, closest coffee shop. You can say some speakers waiting to get their tickets confirmed. Is my flight on time? Is my ticket confirmed? You could send any message, any question that you had in SMS format, and the database would answer 90% of the questions. The 10% which the database didn't have would land up on our desk. The guy would quickly look up Google, or if you were asking about your ticket, he would quickly look up the airline site or the time or whatever else, and quickly send you an answer. Now, how much patience do all of us have on SMS? We don't wait for more than, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Beyond that, it's too late to get a response in SMS. So that's the kind of turnaround times people were dealing with when they were working on this process. And like I mentioned, strict service level agreements, be it time, be it quality, be it whatever, they're definitely achievable in this kind of model. So all this is good, but what's the impact that this kind of work can have? How can it even transform our place, our country, is something that I'd like to share with you. So like I mentioned, if we take a conservative 50 seats in one village and 100 people working out of that location, that would cover about 20-25 villages around that particular office. And if you take an average salary of just 6,000 rupees per person, and I'm just talking about salaries right now, I'm not even referring to the money that you pay on rental, on courier, on electricity, on all the incidental expenses of running an organization. But if you just take 6,000 rupees per head, that would add 72 lakhs to a rural economy, to one village with 20 villages around. Now imagine what kind of potential that has, because suddenly these people are saving 80% of what they're earning. That's disposable income. Wasn't that what happened to urban India, to Delhi, to Bombay 10 years ago? When, kids like us, and I can say myself, when I got out of college, we had options to get multiple jobs. That's what gave me the confidence that I can start something on my own, because I'll definitely get a job. So the incidental benefits of that are something which I can't even put in money value here. Supposing we were to have 1,000 centers, 1,000 companies adopting one village each. And when I say adopting, I'm not saying they're doing charity. They're getting their work done, they're getting value for their money. That itself would add 720 crores to our rural economy. Why do we need to depend on anyone else? Why do we need money on subsidy, on anything else? That kind of infusion is what we say, creating wealth at the bottom of the pyramid. Thank you so much.